Hari Om. We are back with another story from the Upanishads, and this time the story is from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. As the name itself suggests, Brihat meaning big. So this Upanishad, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, is a huge Upanishad and it explains so many various concepts of Vedanta, and all of these are explained through stories, through similes, analogies. So it's a beautiful, huge Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and from there, this is one story where this time, like in the other Upanishads, there's always a teacher and a taught, right? A teacher and a student or a disciple. Here we have another interesting pair. We have seen a regular, Acharya and a Shishya. And we have seen a little boy as a student and one of the Devatas as a Guru. We have seen various kinds. We've seen the husband and wife, father and son, isn't it? So this time, let us see who this pair is going to be. So it so happens that there was a Brahmana from the Gargya family. His name was Balaki and he was referred to as Acharya Gargya Balaki because he came from the family lineage of Garga. And Gargya Balaki knew a lot of things. He was very well read, well versed in the Shastras, and he those days all the Brahmanas would visit kings, and the kings would ask them to have a dialogue, a discourse, or a debates. Debates were arranged by kings, and the Brahmanas were also given gold coins, cows, land, etc. So this Brahmana, Acharya Gargya Balaki, he approached King Ajatashatru. What a beautiful name. Ajatashatru. Shatru, enemy. Jata, born. Ajata, unborn. He had no enemies, and what a way of saying that. His enemies were not born. They were not going to be born also. So he was the undefeated one. And not just in terms of prowess, let us see in what other way also. So when Acharya Balaki, Gargya Balaki, approached King Ajatashatru and said, "O king, I want to tell you all about the Brahman." King Ajatashatru was mighty pleased. He said, "Everyone used to approach King Janaka on such matters. I am so happy that you chose to visit me and have a discussion here upon the highest concepts of the Vedas." So he said, "I will give you gold coins and cows for this, and I am very happy that you are here." And so began. Acharya Balaki started what he wanted to share. So he started off saying, "O king, that being in the sun, I meditate upon him as the Brahman." King Ajatashatru said, "Oh, Acharya, I too meditate upon that being in the sun, but not in the way you are speaking about. But I meditate upon that reality behind the names and forms, where even the sun is a name and form. And one who meditates upon the sun like this indeed becomes the supreme one in his group." Acharya Balaki thought and said, "O king, I meditate upon the Brahman as that being who resides in the moon." King Ajatashatru said, "O Acharya, I too meditate upon the being in the moon, but not in the way you are saying. I meditate upon the moon as the white-robed, expansive, luminous one, the radiant one, the Soma. The Soma is the one who vitalizes our food, and one who meditates upon the moon like this will never face a shortage of food in his life." Then Acharya Balaki went on with a few more. He talked about the Vayu, he talked about lightning, he talked about fire, he talked about Akasha, he talked about apaha, water, and finally he said he talked about the self. And even that, King Ajatashatru had an answer for that. And this way, after he spoke about the self, Acharya Balaki became quiet. When Acharya Balaki fell silent, King Ajatashatru asked, "Is that all, O Acharya? One cannot know the Brahman by just knowing this much." And at that point, Acharya Balaki bowed down to Emperor Ajatashatru and said, "I now approach you as your student." The king for a moment thought, "Oh Acharya, this is against the vidhi, this is against how the norm is. You are a Brahmana, I am a Kshatriya. It is always that the Brahmanas taught the Kshatriyas and not the other way round. However, I will share with you what I know." And he held Acharya Balaki by his hand and took him on a walk. And when they went out on a walk, it was dark, it was night. And there was lying down a young man, and he was fast asleep. Ajatashatru took Acharya Balaki to that man who was sleeping, and King Ajatashatru called out to the man, "O Soma, O radiant one, wake up! O one who is the most luminous, wake up!" The man continued to be fast asleep. And then King Ajatashatru prodded the man and woke him up, and he woke up. Now this was the instance that was shown to Acharya Balaki. And King Ajatashatru then, based on this, started his knowledge sharing. You can't call it teaching because he did not accept himself to be a teacher and did not really accept Acharya Balaki as a student. But still, we know that when someone is teaching, he or she is referred to as the guru, and when somebody is receiving that knowledge, he or she is referred to as the disciple. And so, for all practical purposes, here King Ajatashatru is the guru and Acharya Balaki is the disciple. So, what did King Ajatashatru say with this instance? Doesn't it sound strange? Taking someone to a man who was sleeping and then trying to wake him up in two different ways. So, what sense did it all make? Let us see. So, King Ajatashatru asked Acharya Balaki a question. He said, "Now this is a being full of consciousness. He is a conscious being, isn't it? He is a man, he is alive. He is a conscious being. But when he was fast asleep, where was he? Why did he not wake up when I called out to him? And then when I shook him and woke him up, where did he come from? Where did that consciousness come from? Where did the conscious being come from?" Acharya Balaki thought and confessed that he doesn't know. And at that point, King Ajatashatru continued his teaching. So King Ajatashatru said, "When this conscious being is fast asleep, all the organs in his body are absorbed into his own consciousness. And where is this consciousness?" King Ajatashatru says that this consciousness, this conscious being is in its own consciousness in the Hridayakasha or the Chidakasha or the heart space. And he also explained that this power of smell is absorbed, the power of sight is absorbed, the power of hearing is absorbed, the power of speech is absorbed, mind is absorbed. They are all absorbed into its own consciousness, and then the conscious being is in fact residing in that heart space. Here actually when we say power of speech, power of sight, what it refers to is the prana. It is the vital force, the prana, because of which each of our organ functions. And when they say it was absorbed, what was absorbed is the prana. Alright, so this was the explanation given to why the person did not wake up. And then King Ajatashatru continues his explanation and says that when this person, this conscious being from deep sleep moves into the dream state, what happens? In the dream state, the same conscious being becomes either a king and moves around in his palace with all his various servants and soldiers and ministers, or he becomes a brahmana in his dream. He could become anything, and in the dream world he goes about doing various activities of the dream world. And how does it go about doing these activities? It takes the organs also along with it and moves around in the dream world, experiencing the various events in the dream. And when from the dream state the conscious being slips into deep sleep, what happens is that the prana or the consciousness comes back from all these organs via 72,000 nadis. In English we translate it as nerves. Along those 72,000 nadis, this conscious being comes back to reside in the Hridayakasha. And in the Hridayakasha, this conscious being remains in bliss, Ananda. King Ajatashatru concludes by saying that just as the spider only makes its web and the spider moves around the threads of the web, isn't it? And just as when the fire is there, we see sparks. Now what are these sparks? They are nothing but fire itself, and it appears that the sparks are coming out of the fire, and yet every spark is nothing other than fire itself. Similarly, King Ajatashatru goes on to say that in the same way, from the self alone emanates the various organs, the various worlds, various gods, and the many beings. All the beings that we see in the creation have all come from the self alone. And the Upanishads call this self as the truth of the truth, Satyasya Satyam. Why does the Upanishad call it so? That is because the prana is referred to as the truth, as Satyam. And what consciousness we are talking of is the truth of that truth also. It is the truth of the prana also. And so the Upanishad says this is the truth of the truth, Satyasya Satyam. So the conscious being is none other than the truth and the truth alone. In other stories, in the other contexts, we have heard the self as the Brahman, self as the Atman. Here, the self is referred to as Satyam, and not simply Satyam, Satyasya Satyam, because many times truth is associated with many other words also. But here there is no confusion. This is the truth of all truths. Here we refer to as the prana, but whatever else you may call as truth, this Satyam is the truth of all truths. The story in the Upanishad ends with this teaching of King Ajatashatru. What is it that we take away from the story? Indeed, I am that conscious being, and I am that conscious being in reality, Satyasya Satyam, truth of truth. But in the waking state, I take up a name and form, and I go about the various activities of the waking world. And then again, when I go to sleep and slip into the dream world, there I, the same conscious being, take up numerous names and forms, experiencing and going about various events and activities in the dream world. And I, the very same conscious being, slip into deep sleep and abide in the Chidakasha or the Hridayakasha as just consciousness. And we must pay attention to the fact that it is the same conscious being who, as it appears, as it were, moving about these three different states. But in reality, who am I? I am the Satyasya Satyam, I am the truth of the truth. Knowing this, knowing the fact that I am Satyasya Satyam, I am free to roam about, whether it's the waking world or the dream world. Absolutely no problem, no harm. But if I don't know this, then when I enter the waking world or the dream world, I experience and I feel caught up in this cycle and bondage of joys and sorrows. This being a very deep and profound understanding, we must necessarily meditate upon ourselves as the consciousness in the Chidakasha or in the heart space. So, happy meditation to you all. Hari Om until we meet for the next story.